Hello all, welcome back. So in our Selenium with Java series, we are looking into the shadowDOM, what is shadowDOM and how we can access the shadowDOM elements by using Selenium with Java. So in our previous session, we have seen how we can access the shadowDOM elements, whether it is open mode or closed mode, and what are the limitations of your closed mode where we cannot access the elements. So all these things we have seen in terms of the JavaScript, right? So we used to go to the console and then we were seeing we were executing the document dot query selector dot shadowRoot. If you are not familiar with the shadowDOM a lot, I would suggest you to go back to our previous. It was very quick what do you call introduction to the shadowDOM details, which will give you more clarity when we are implementing that into our Java. Okay, so if you have understood about shadowRoot open and close mode, let's stick to me and then let's see how we can implement it. So as I told, this is the demo application which I have created for the shadowRoot. One is open, one is closed with a reference, another is closed with no reference. And then if you want to go for a nested one, you can go to this particular what do you call website actually, where you can see nested shadow elements. And then there is one compatibility. If you are not sure about what browsers are supporting the shadowDOM, pretty much everything with the current state so far I'm doing this video, almost all browsers in this world is supporting the shadowDOM except Internet Explorer. But yeah, the Internet Explorer support is already ended, and I'm pretty much sure that most of the organizations would have migrated from Internet Explorer to Edge or some other browsers. So that shouldn't be a big deal for us. So this is just one thing I wanted to add from my previous session. Okay, fine. So now let's first go into this and then try to put these things into our what do you call into the Selenium with Java. So for this, let me just copy paste which we have seen in our previous session. So here let's go and copy it, and you can see, so we were able to add with this open right here, and you can even add some more things also here, so no problem with that. So this particular line of code we want to implement it in Selenium with Java. So for this, what I'm going to do, I'll create a new class and I will say shadowDOM test. Okay, some name I'm giving here, and let me copy paste some of the code base from different tests so that it would be easy for us to deal with that. Okay, and yeah, so this is the application where we are going to test the shadowDOM. So driver, okay, and I need another one JavaScript executor JS. Okay, okay, let me import this one. Okay, so now here what I'm going to do, I'll use the JavaScript executor, right? That is the way we can use our, we can execute any of our JavaScript code actually in Selenium with Java. So here I will say JavaScript executor, and I will be casting this one into a driver object, right? Which driver I'm getting here. So I will say driver, and here actually basically I will take this global. Okay, that's it. Now here what I can do, I can put the js dot execute script, and inside this I can write any JavaScript to run my code actually. Let's import this one, and yeah. So here let me copy paste this entire thing actually here, whatever it is there. So I'll just copy this one and I will put a double quote here, and I'm going to write as it is. And now here I'll just wait for some time, and then I will close the browser. Okay, driver.quit. Fine, let me quickly run this one and see whether it is working fine or not. So as you can see, whatever I wanted to print, it printed and it closed the browser. Fine, very straightforward, but in reality, we won't be doing like this actually. The reason is that we are hard coding everything, right? So my open component I'm doing. Now let's say I want to do for my closed component, right? The other one. So what I'm going to do, I will be copying this one and I will be pasting here, and this will be my close component, right? Let me go back to the this one and show you this one actually what it is. You can see what is the host here, my close component, right? This is what I am adding here. This is my host, the shadow host. And then because it is closed, I cannot use the shadow root, right? What I'm going to use the hive underscore root, because this is the way I have shown in my previous session also. Let me go back to the script here. Yeah, here, and then if you go to the closed one, you can see this is the reference, right? Underscore root is there. So let's go to here, and then you can see underscore root is there. So that is the reason I'm using the root here. And query selector input, this is my shadow host. Up to here shadow host, this is my reference, and this is my shadow root. And then dot value, I'm adding something. Maybe I can change to something close. Okay, and here I will say QAB box open, just to differentiate these two things. And let me add some weight here. Okay, let's run this one real quick. And you can see QAB box open, close, and then it will close the browser. Okay, for the close with no reference, I already told we cannot use this one. This is for the reference only. I have added here for your for an example only. But yeah, because it is no reference is there, I cannot automate it. That's anyway we got the clarification already. Now, as I told, we cannot use like this. Everything is hard coded, because think about this. If your application is having, let's say, 20 shadow root elements are there, you cannot just hard code all these things, right? So what we can do, we can write some kind of logic to make sure that these things will be done in a what do you call, in an utility method or something. So for this, what I'm going to do here, I'll make like this public void. I'll create one method here which will say shadow get shadow root. I will say like this. Now here what I'm going to do, I will accept couple of things, and here I will say string selector, and I will say here better to always use the query selector. That will make the things very easy for us. So query, and then here query selector, this is a string which is nothing but this thing actually, whether it is open, close, or tomorrow you are getting some other shadow host, those things you can send it to this one actually to make it more dynamic. And then the next thing is that I want to send a like this actually, so which is a boolean actually. So this is again optional, you can use it, you can skip it as well. But yeah, I would suggest to keep this one as well. If your application is handling both open and closed, closed means it should have a reference only. If there is no reference, then you can skip this particular boolean only. So is open, I will say is open. If it is opened, then it is straightforward, right? What I'm going to do here, that I want to send the web element actually. So that is what I want to do here. So that what I want actually, instead of hard coding this one, I want something like this. So I will say get shadow root. Here I'm going to send the host. So this is nothing but my query selector host actually. Even I can say like this, query selector host. So I will be sending as a first parameter. The second parameter is open or not. If it is open, I can use the shadow root directly. So let me write the concept here, and then I will explain you this one. So what I'm going to do here, I will return something because I have to return the web element, right? But if I'm executing js.execute script, this always returns me one object actually. That object is not actually the web element. So what I'm going to do, let me first show you that. So I will say js.execute script, and inside this I will be writing my logic, right? So I will say return, because see here document.query selector will just perform certain action only. This particular statement doesn't return any object, but when you are writing return and this statement, it returns an object which I can now cast it with web element. Now you got the concept right here. So this is what I'm going to do. Now here what I'm going to do, this entire line I will be writing, but yeah, up to this only here. So what I'm going to do here, or else I can write it in a different way. Let me show you that. Document dot query selector, let me copy paste these things. document.querySelector. See, this has to be dynamic actually, because your host can be different actually. For each shadow dome, the host is different, right? So what I can do here, I can make this as a variable actually. So after this, it is a string. Then what I'm going to do, I will take this one as this one actually, this variable actually, and then you put a plus, and then you put a double quote again. So now this returns you the actual web element actually here. So you can say, now you can see this entire thing, and then you can just put a semicolon here. So this will give you the shadow root element actually here. Now let's think about this, that it's not a what you call, is not open actually. So what you want to return actually there, the same thing only you want to return, but instead of this shadow root, what you want to return here, underscore root, right? If there is a reference, always make sure that that has to be there. Now let's see what it is. Okay, it's not used, we will be utilizing here. Now this get shadow root, what it is expecting, it is expecting one, this query selector host, and if it is open or not. What is my query selector for the first one? This is my open component, right? So I will be writing this one, and I will say this one, and then I will put it into a double quote, right? Because it is a string. So here I'll put, is it open? Yes, it is open. So I will put a true. Now this is nothing but it is coming into a web element. So I will say web element equal to this one. Okay. Now what I can do, I can put el dot, what is that, find by element, right? Because I have to get the shadow root element. See, this is root only I got, but what about this one actually? Input tag I need to identify, right? By dot by dot id. Let's say that it is an id or tag name. I can use a tag name, right? Oops, sorry. By dot tag name, and inside this I will be putting that input. Okay, so this is my shadow root, this is the shadow root, which is this one actually, shadow root dot find element by tag name, which is this particular input. So here you can see el dot find element tag name input. Now here I can freely enter the text whichever I want, and then here what I'm going to do, instead of this, what I'm going to do, I will call the same thing only here, but this is for closed, right? So what I'm going to do, web element, maybe I will say close element. Okay, now in this, is it a open element, open component? No, right? So let me just inspect this one. What is the shadow host here? The shadow host is my close component. So this is what I'm sending there as a parameter. So instead of open, I will say close component. Is it opened? No, it is not opened, so I will make it as false. So when I'm making it as false, then this will be applicable. Now in your application, when you speak to your developer, it might not be underscore root. It might be, if you are working on Google or Facebook, it might be written as underscore Facebook root. Whatever that reference is there, you just need to update that. And throughout your application, the close reference, they are adding this one only. So that's why I kept this as a utility method here. So is open, is closed here. Then what I can do, close element dot find element by, and I can use by dot tag name, and here this is input, right? Inside that input is there, and then I can just do a send case. Here I can say qab box, just a second, qab box close. I can print this one and then wait for some time and then quit the browser. Now let's run this one and see whether these changes are impacting or not. Okay, there is some issue is there. Let's see what is that. Okay, so here the reason is that we are using the tag name here, you can see, right? So that's where actually it is throwing that error. I've tried actually, so I'm using the query selector and it is taking, or the CSS selector. So let me just try to do this actually as a CSS selector, and let's see if this is really working or not. Yeah, so the same thing, let's try in this as well, and then try to rerun the same test case and see whether it is working fine or not. So here you will see it is written as it's throwing an exception as element not interactable, right? So here one small thing actually which we need to change it. So the problem is that so for a closed shadow DOM, if you're trying to access the elements, you cannot use actually with this input send keys. I've tried this many times, but it didn't work. So we have to kind of use the JavaScript actually instead of writing this close element dot find element. It's a simple one liner actually. So what you can do instead of this, you can just write like this. So you will say, let me just do one thing first. Let's identify this one actually. So I will take this entire thing here into a web element. So I will say web element, and then I will say just element and equal to this one, and here I'll just say close child element, some name I'm taking, so which is basically the shadow root, which is the hyphen root actually, and then the input actually, the closed root element. Now here what I will do, I will just create like this, and I will say js, it's a small dot execute script, and inside this I will say arguments. Okay, oops, argument spelling is this one, arguments of 0, so that it will take the first index, and here I will say value. Okay, value equal to, I will take the value whichever value I'm looking here. So let's say I want to type this one actually here, so I will just go here and I will do like this, and let's just give a single quote here and here. And then now what is this argument? So this argument is nothing but that closed shadow dome's child element, right? That is nothing but the css selector input actually. So you just need to write this line of code for a closed shadow dome. If it is open, you can just directly use the el dot find element, that's absolutely will work fine, but for this one you need to do in this approach. Now let's run this test and then see whether it is executing or not. So as you can see, it entered the open, and you can see on the closed root also we were able to enter the text. So this is the way actually you need to what you call handle the open shadow DOM or even closed shadow DOM. Now talking about the multiple what you call the nested one, right? So in the nested one, if you go to this particular application here, which is having nested what you call your shadow DOM elements, right? Now we have seen in our previous session how we can access it by using the core JavaScript, right? The same thing now we will use it with Selenium with Java, and then we will try to fetch this particular text. So let's get into the IntelliJ and try the nested shadow DOM element. Okay, so let's try to inspect this element. So here I will just say inspect, and let me just move it here, and then yeah. So as you can see, this means outwear is inside a shadow root, right? So this is one of my parent shadow root. Okay, but after this, if you see, there is another shadow root is here as well. Okay, so this is the top level. So I have now two shadow roots. So one is with the shadow host is page equal to home, and another one is here, right, which is the name equal to home. So page equal to home is the first shadow host, and the second one is name home. So what I'm going to do here, I'll do one thing, I'll create another test here. Just let me put it enter, and then I'll just select this, and I will say shadow test, and then I will say nested, so that I can have specific to this particular application. So here let me use this application, and then couple of things I will be just copy pasting from here, like this is the one. And then so the first thing is that I need to identify what you call the shadow host, right? So for this actually what I'm going to do, I will be first sending into the get shadow root, right? So here let me just copy paste this one, and here I will say parent, I will say parent, so I will say parent shadow host, I will say shadow host. Okay, so inside this I will be sending get shadow root, but what is my first shadow root? If you see here, this is my first one, right, where the page is equal to home. So here I will say, so this is query selector, I need to send it, right? So can I do like this? I'll say page equal to, and I will say home. Let me see if that is small or capital. So it is small, right? So this is what actually I'm going to send first to where actually to get shadowRoot, because it opened? It is opened. You can see it is open. So now I got the parent shadow host. Now once I got it, the next thing what I'm going to do, so I will be going to identify the element, right? This is inside my first shadow host. So this is name home, right? So what I'm going to do here, so I will create web element and I will say child, okay, child shadow root, which is my second shadow root, right, or the shadow host. So here what I'm going to do actually, so I cannot do a get shadow root of this one, right, because the name home, whatever you have seen here, this name home is on top of this shadow host, right, which I fetched by using this get shadow root. So somewhat I need to do like this actually. So parent shadow host dot query selector. I have to do like this dot find element by what do you call, by CSS selector of name of home dot shadow root, right? So means what I mean to say is that I cannot send like this query selector host actually, because if you see this page home, this particular method which we have created, right, utility method, it is taking directly from the document directly. But in this case I don't want to take it from the document actually, this child shadow host, it has to find it from this host, right? So for this what I'm going to do, I'll create one more, oops, sorry, so I'll create one what do you call, another method actually, kind of a overloaded method. In this case I won't be sending a string actually here. Instead of this what I'm going to do, I will send a web element directly. So I will say web element and here I will say just selector host only, or I will just say that shadow host. I will say shadow host. So this is basically the what do you call, sorry, shadow host. So shadow host means the parent shadow host I need to send it. And for sure if it is open or closed you can do that. Now in this case here what I'm going to do, I won't be taking this one from document. What I need to do, I need to take it from the shadow host. So I will be changing a bit here. So here I will be doing arguments of 0, okay, dot shadow root. But what argument is that? So that argument is nothing but this shadow host, whatever I'm getting it from this. Now the same thing, like I will be taking here and then just copy paste this entire thing and then just paste it here, and then the actual element, right, that element is this one actually, if you have a closed one. Now what I can do, I can directly call this get shadow root here into this. So instead of doing all this find element, what I'm going to do here, so I'll directly say get shadow root. I will be taking the element instead of the query selector. So here I will say parent shadow host, because see on these I need to do shadow root, right? That is what this get shadow root method will be doing for us. Now is it open? Yes, it is open. Now you can see the error is gone and we got our child shadow host also. Now what is the next step, is that to print that particular h2, right? So if you see this one on this, so now this is nothing but my shadow, this one child shadow host, I got it, this one, it's basically root actually. So here I can just say like this actually. So parent shadow root, okay, and this is my root actually. Here I can say, and here also just make it root. I mean whatever name you want to give it actually. So now on this actually, now this is normal web element, right? So I can just play with this one actually. Find element by dot css selector. Yeah, CSS selector. Now what is that tag name? That is h2, right? So I can write it. Now what I am going to do with that? So hold on. Yeah, so here get text, I will just do that. Now this will basically print that menswear, right? Whatever it is, that this text will be printing because I got the child shadow root. Now after child shadow root it is easy for me, right? I will just say find element by this tag name h2, tag name or css selector, I can use it here. let's do that. So let's wait for some time so that we can see that in action, and then I will just say driver.quit. Okay, let me just run only this test case only, which is handling the nested shadow root. Okay, so it will not do anything. Just let's see what is it is. It's throwing some error. Let's see some missing argument. Okay, where it is. Okay, so the issue is there. So if you see here, the parent shadow root we are sending, right? So the parent shadow root is which one actually? So this is basically this one. Now after this, on this parent shadow root, we need to even include this one, right? The second shadow host. So that we are not including. That's why it was throwing error. So what we need to do here, we need to say, probably I will do one thing here, dot find element, and then I will say by dot css selector, and then I need to provide that that value actually. What is this? Name equal to home, right? So here I will say name equal to single quote home. So I need to mention that. So I'm kind of sending this entire. So this is actually my shadow host. So I will do one thing, copy paste here. I'll say web element, and I will say child shadow host, which is my shadow host here, right? So this shadow host I will be sending to where actually? To this one actually. So to find it out, the shadow root. So from this child shadow host, I will be getting the root. Now this root I can use by getting any of the elements here. I can get it. Now let's try this one and see if really it works. Okay, seems like it is working. Yeah, as you can see at the end, you're getting that value. What is that value? So this is actually coming under two shadow roots are there, right? So your first shadow host is which one actually? So this is your shadow host. By using this shadow host, we are getting the shadow root. Now the second, the child host is what actually? So this root plus this find element by name home. So I got the host actually. Now once I got the host, it's simple, right? I can get the root by calling this method. Now once I got the shadow root, I can just use any of the element inside the shadow root, and I can perform whatever action I need. So that is the way actually you need to what do you call, get the elements from different, if there are like nested shadow elements are there. You just need to find it out, the shadow host, then the first shadow root. With respect to that shadow root, you need to get the child host. Once you got that child host, you need to get the child root. So now we are at the child root. Now whatever the elements inside that child root, you can just as usual way you can utilize it. If you have a framework, let's say that if you have a framework where you want to send the element, no need to worry about that. You can just send this entire line into your utility method, and then you can just call whatever click or get text or whatever ways are there. Okay, so that is pretty much it about your shadow elements, whether it is a single root is there, or if you have a nested shadow roots are there. So hope this session is helpful. Do subscribe to this YouTube channel. We will be seeing some more Selenium with Java features in our upcoming series. Thank you for watching.